Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a fun show today. We're going to talk about brucellosis. Brucellosis, or bangs, in cattle is something that we've eradicated in this country. We still calfhood vaccinate, and we still have the potential of that disease popping up if we don't stay on top of it. We have Dr. Justin Smith, who's the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner for the state of Kansas here. It's going to be a great show. Thanks for joining me.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Folks, welcome to the show. Dr. Smith, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Dan.
Folks, as I mentioned in the opening, this is Dr. Justin Smith, and he is the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas, works with the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Former practitioner, Western Kansas, wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience. We're lucky to have him in the state of Kansas, and we're lucky to have him on the show. We're going to talk about something that pretty common, but maybe we haven't thought about the history of what's actually going on. It's brucellosis, folks, in cows or bangs.
Exactly. So yeah, brucellosis has been around for a long time. Actually, it was founded in the United States back in the early 1900s, and but we've had it here in the United States up at that point in time. Luckily for us, we are free here in the state of Kansas and have been free for close to 20 years now. So.
Yeah, and it comes with, you know, kind of the history. This is a disease that not only causes disease in cattle, but it can cause disease in humans. But more importantly, we decided it's something we need to eradicate.
Very true, very true. It is a disease, it is a zoonotic disease, so we do catch it from some of our domestic species that we deal with. We have basically 4 variants that we deal with. Affects sheep and goats, swine, cattle, and some of our camelids and cervids as well. So we do deal with it. It's one of them things that we can't control, and we do have the ability to eradicate it, and we have eradicated it here in the state.
Yeah, and it was quite an eradication process back in the 60s and 70s, where we went out and bled every cow.
Most definitely. Our predecessors did a knock-up job as far as getting rid of this disease, and so the animals, herds were tested on a routine basis. Where they went to sales, wherever they were commingled, they were tested on a routine basis. Positive animals were identified, and then herds that positive animals came from were done in a test and remove type process until they were cleaned and cleaned them herds up.
And that's how, you know, being from the feed yard world, we had quarantine feed yards, and that's where the term quarantine feed yard came from. Is you had a bangs positive, we'd brand her and then send her to the yard, and she didn't go anywhere but slaughter. Slaughter
only, exactly. And still our sale barns today have quarantine pens for kind of a holdover for that purpose, is because as them animals were identified at the sale barn, because there are a test they can do right on site, a screening test, and as they were found positive, they were put in them pens and sold for slaughter purposes only.
So you know, kind of laying the groundwork, we've done the test and remove, and then we vaccinate to control as well.
That's very true. Very true.
So we have the 2 different biosecurity. So when we'll save the vaccination part and kind of for the calfhood segment of the show, but you know, it's one of those things that's tremendous program, USDA programs, correct?
That is true. They provide the support and the indemnity for it. Exactly.
Okay. So if we do find a positive, we do have an indemnity?
Yes, we do.
Cool, so people can be reimbursed. Folks, this is Dr. Justin Smith. He's with the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas. We're talking about brucellosis, bangs. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how that has an impact here on our industry in the U.S. and how we're controlling it. You're watching DocTalk. We appreciate you watching the show. More after these messages.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
No matter where, no matter why, The Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with our special guest, Dr. Justin Smith, who's the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner for the state of Kansas, which means you pretty much have your finger on the pulse of all regulatory veterinary medicine and internal movement, external movement of animals. Quite a bit of job, isn't there?
Exactly. Kansas, we have a tremendous amount of movement in and out of the state, and you're right, it all comes through our office as far as being able to validate that that is a legal movement, as well as a movement that we have our hands on in case we need to do some follow-up and trace backs on disease purposes.
Okay, so kind of talk me through, because I think that sometimes producers, and maybe we just start out with, like, let's just use Kansas as an example, but when do I need to get a health paper?
Sure. Anytime that an animal comes into the state of Kansas, unless they are coming to slaughter or to a livestock market, must have a current CVI or a current certificate of veterinary inspection done.
So if they're going to a packing plant, they don't need a health paper.
They do not need a health paper, no.
And then a market, define that.
A livestock auction market, one of our livestock markets here in the state of Kansas.
So they could come in from Colorado and go to a livestock market. Now, to leave that market, do they need a health paper?
If they're going back to the other state or going back across state lines, yes, they will need a health paper. Okay. But the reason for that is we have veterinary inspectors at them livestock markets, and so they serve as the inspections of them.
And
animals.
we have them at the slaughter facilities too.
Exactly.
USDA antemortem inspections.
Exactly.
Okay, so it makes perfect sense. So then, places that they're going that there won't be veterinary inspection from the state or federal level is when they have to have the accredited veterinarian.
Yep.
At the state of origin.
The state of origin, a preemptive inspection, exactly.
That makes a heck of a lot of sense, doesn't it, folks? So then, when it comes to brucellosis, what kind of things do we have to document on brucellosis?
Well, fortunately, the United States is free.
Okay.
Every state in the nation is free right at this point in time, and we don't expect otherwise. Now, there are some areas that are around the Yellowstone that we consider our designated surveillance areas. Mm-hmm. They have an endemic problem with their wildlife population out there, and so there is an area that's deemed within them 3 states around Yellowstone that are deemed to have brucellosis problems. So for that, the state of Kansas requires any animals that are coming in for the purposes of breeding or anything over 18 months of age must have a brucellosis test.
Okay.
Prior to coming in.
So that's really the only place that bangs winds up being on the health papers is in that Yellowstone
in that
area.
Yellowstone area, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then what other things, I mean, if we got a minute here till we go to the break, but what things are the most common then that have to be on a health paper? Is there anything that we have to test for? Depends on the state.
It depends on the state, definitely. Here in the state of Kansas, we definitely require a trick test on our incoming bulls, our trichomoniasis test. Depending on where they're coming from, like I said, we do require brucellosis test on some of the swine, some of the pseudorabies on some of the swine, but the cattle, really, basically, we're free. Now, our heifers, our dairy heifers do require a TB test prior to coming into the state of Kansas, or a tuberculosis test.
You bet. Well, it's extremely interesting, extremely big job. I'm glad that we've done the groundwork and don't have to do all the testing anymore. I know it was a pain probably for when people were going through it, but boy, they made it easier on us.
Oh, very much so. It was a pain and it was costly.
Yep.
It was costly.
But it's saving us money now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So, folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about calfhood vaccinating your heifers. Something that everybody does, probably sitting there to do it, don't think about it, don't know why we're doing it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from the break. You're watching Doc Talk, more with Dr. Smith after these messages.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for that grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, and we're glad to answer it and work with you.
Fort Wallace was the fightingest fort in the West. Fossils, Indians, soldiers, scouts, wagons, trails, pioneers, stories. Discover the story of Fort Wallace and the people who served here, the people who fought here, the people who settled here. Wallace County, where the past is present.
Did you know long-range planning through the checkoff can help keep your business profitable? To successfully pass on cattle operations from one generation to the next, it's important to promote beef and keep farms and ranches profitable. Your beef checkoff helps do that.
We are Mike and
Martha
Armitage here at the A-Bar Ranch, Claremore, Oklahoma. We have a cow-calf production company, and we also have a marketing company. We have entertained groups brought to us by the Beef Checkoff, such as South Korean media that covered our operation and brought the good news back to South Korea.
That was a really neat experience, and that we got to have young people from another country that we got to experience a lot of different things in their culture, but got to share our culture too.
We live on the Squaw Creek Ranch here as a division of the A-Bar Ranch.
As a wife and a mother, and also with my background in more of a health field, I look at just the nutritional value, and it's great that the Beef Checkoff offers that kind of information to the consumers that are out there.
We both are proud to come from agricultural, more specifically ranching backgrounds.
My dad is a part of the Beef Checkoff board, and so the Beef Checkoff has been something that we promote and that we support what it has to offer.
Not everybody who's in agriculture is tech savvy on Facebook and through social media. Most people in the city happen to be, and they are very disconnected from our day-to-day routines, and that's one thing that makes me proud of the Beef Checkoff, them going to bat for us, from those who aren't necessarily anti-ag, but just simply don't know and they aren't getting the information.
As producers, we're strong supporters of that, and hope that many of you out there realize all of the different things that the Beef Checkoff brings to the table for us as producers.
I'm Rexanne Struve, veterinarian in Western Iowa. I have a veterinary clinic and started doing stem cell therapy on dogs in August of 2014. And after the first 2 dogs, after 3 weeks, I saw such dramatic results. I said, hey, I have arthritis, I have joints, really need this help. Where can I go to get this done? I had stem cell therapy done in November of 2014 on my finger joints, my hip, and the ball of my left foot, all of which I'd had real severe problems with. Saw a pretty dramatic improvement in a short amount of time. I would certainly recommend that somebody don't wait until I'm in the position that I was in with the damage already done to my joints. I encourage veterinarians to use it for their animals, and I encourage anybody who sees this video, if you have need, get in contact with these people, because this is a phenomenal place to have this done.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson with Dr. Justin Smith, who's the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas, working for the Department of Agriculture. And we're talking about brucellosis. And so talk me through, because you hear people say, well, I got to bang those heifers, or I got to calfhood vaccinate those heifers. This is really part of this brucellosis control, correct?
That is correct. The calfhood vaccination has been a phenomenal vaccination, and it's helped us tremendously in the ability to eradicate this out of our domestic herds. So the calfhood vaccination is a vaccination that's available out there. It is only done or allowed to be done by an accredited veterinarian on your herd. It is a 2 cc dose. The vaccination period is anywhere between 4 and 10 months of age on cattle. I say that's certain states. Here in the state of Kansas, we do 4 to 12 months.
4 to 12 months
of age.
Now this is a live
that is
vaccine.
True. That is true.
This is actually, now the RB51 vaccine, which is a live brucellosis vaccine, and one that you don't want to inject yourself.
Very much so. No, the injection component is it is a live vaccine. It's a dangerous vaccine. Granted, the RB51 strain that we're using now is much safer than the old strain we used to use. We used to use the old strain 19, which was actually the field form of the vaccine, of the disease that we had out there. And so, but the RB51 is safer, but it still is a human health hazard. And it's definitely one of them things that if you do happen to stick yourself or be contaminated by a contaminated needle, you need to make sure and call your medical doctor right away.
Yeah, and you can get on antibiotics, and probably the most famous case of human brucellosis was the James Harriet.
Yes, exactly.
All creatures great and small.
Exactly.
He suffered from self-induced brucellosis.
Right.
But let's so I'm going to vaccinate those heifers. What kind of paperwork or we have is it the orange ear tag that goes in there?
So when your veterinarian does it, they will do like I say, a 2 cc vaccine, and then they will put a tattoo in that ear of that animal that they vaccinate. And that tattoo is the official documentation or the official identification of that animal being vaccinated. It will have depending on the vaccine they use, it will have an R and then a USDA shield in the year that they were done in. In addition to that, they will put in an orange metal clip, or now we have actually orange RFID calfhood vaccination tags.
Cool.
So they will put that tag in. Honestly, that's an individual identification, but the official part of that vaccination is the tattoo. Is the tattoo.
And so now, which animals are required for calfhood vaccination? So if I have heifers, they're going to a feed yard.
No.
They don't have to be.
Right. In the state of Kansas, we have no requirements on calfhood vaccinations. So it's strictly a producer choice. But the ones that we do vaccinate are the heifers. We definitely don't want to do any of our bulls. In fact, if we do, that we need to consider that being a steer at that point in time.
Yeah. But because they'll show up positive for the testing that we do if we ran bangs testing on that bull.
Most definitely, yes. So, but yeah, it is the heifers between that 4 and 12 months of age.
Okay, great. Folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about bangs and brucellosis and the wonderful program we have here in the United States. Learn a little bit more about it. We're lucky to have Dr. Smith here. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Hi, I'm Kim Mandring with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan here. Thanks for joining us for our Cattle First Minute, as sponsored by Behringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. And today's Cattle First is talking about how to run a squeeze chute. And a lot of times when we run a squeeze chute, it's raise the tailgate, drop the tailgate on the head of the one behind, let the calf run through and ricochet off the front of the chute. And there are just some things that we can do to decrease injuries in the chute of the cattle. Make sure that we use the sides effectively to catch. If you have a hydraulic chute, that we use the sides. Make sure that we have the hydraulics not set too high, okay? We want it to be at that 650 to 800 PSI on the hydraulics. But being careful that we don't miscatch a calf by its temples and not adjust it, or if you catch one by the hips and you're out there with the tagging gun in one hand and the syringe in the other doing the cha-cha trying to get it vaccinated, it's best to just turn that calf loose so neither you nor the calf get hurt.
We do business with Blueville because of the quality of their work. It is excellent quality, and because they make a commitment to their customers.
We enjoy the benefits of hiring a good company to help us maintain this home.
We will always do business with Blueville. We have for many, many years, and there's no reason for us to look for any other service.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook or Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Justin Smith, who's a veterinarian and is the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas. And as we're talking in the break, just because Kansas doesn't have mandatory bangs, some states do.
Definitely. Most of our western states do require calfhood vaccinations, the Colorados, the Wyomings, Utahs. So that is something to keep in mind. Even though in Kansas we don't require it, if you happen to be moving animals there or potentially be moving animals to them states, you want to consider getting your animals vaccinated just for that purposes only.
And if you live in those states, obviously work with your veterinarian, make sure you get those heifers in the states. Check with your state veterinarian, your animal health commission, and make sure that your herd's in compliance with brucellosis, especially where they have elk herds and wanting to keep the vaccination and things like that. Speaking of elk, that was something we wanted to talk about with some of our wildlife or endemic infections, and it's not just elk, it's other species.
It is other species. There again, we talked about the designated surveillance areas, the Yellowstone area. They have a tremendous problem within their bison herds and within their elk herds, and so even to the point where they have started programs to where they don't feed in the calving areas that these times that these elk and these bison are calving up there, to try to decrease the exposure that their domestic herds have with them animals. The big concern we have here in the state of Kansas is the feral swine. Obviously we don't have a huge feral swine problem in the state of Kansas, but we do have a problem, and so Brucellosis in swine is an issue for us.
Absolutely. And when we start to think about, you know, we never think about bangs and pigs, but when you start to think about all the problems that feral swine cause in this state and what they could be causing with disease too, pretty dramatic.
Very dramatic, and the Brucellosis form of the Brucella bacteria is actually more pathogenic than the Brucella abortus that our cattle have, and so it is one of them things that we want to keep a handle on and make sure that we are. And so any of the animals that we harvest, any of the feral animals that we harvest, feral swine, we do testing on them to try to determine our prevalence for that and pseudorabies.
It's important too for people to understand that this could be zoonotic, and if you're out there trapping feral swine or shooting them and eating them.
Yes. Now the meat is good as long as it's properly prepared, but just know that as you're harvesting these animals and field dressing these animals, that if they are infected, you have the ability to be exposed.
Okay, and make sure that you cook it.
Yes, most definitely. It has to be prepared, and that is probably the biggest concern we have is in humans, or the exposure we have is drinking unpasteurized milk or eating contaminated, unprepared meat.
Pasteurize your milk. Make sure that you cook your meat before you eat it. Thanks for being on the show.
No problem, Dan. Appreciate it greatly.
A great resource for me, a great resource for a lot of people in Kansas and beyond, Dr. Justin Smith, who is the Deputy Animal Health Commissioner here in the state of Kansas. Folks, thanks for watching Doc Talk. Remember to always work with your local veterinarian, and if you want to know more about what we do here on Doc Talk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. I appreciate you watching Doc Talk this morning. I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.